Session 2. Fail. First attempt in learning. You have to fail forward. You should always be learning something, whether a good experience or a bad one. There is something to be learned in both. This is another area where the school systems have misled us. Growing up, it was always taught that failing was a bad thing. I'm here to tell you that couldn't be further from the truth. So you may ask, how is failing a good thing? Think about it. When do you do your best learning? When things go good or when things go bad? Nobody is good at everything. Numbers are infinite. My biggest example of failure being a good thing is Michael Jordan. He's pretty much known as the greatest basketball player of all time, and he has admitted to failing over and over again. He actually used to have an ad that said that exact thing. I failed over and over in my career, and that is why I succeed. Interesting, don't you think? Because he would miss a game-winning shot, he would go to the gym and practice that shot for hours. Failing sparks something within you that you never want to have that feeling again, so you do everything in your power not to have that feeling again. You replay the situation over and over in your head, trying to figure out what went wrong and where. This is the learning process. Very few people can just walk into a situation and be a master or great at it. It takes time, it takes practice, it takes preparation, and also failure. Let's take Michael Jordan again, for instance. Did you know that he didn't even make the basketball team his freshman year in high school? Imagine if he would have given up there and said, this isn't for me, or I can't do this. And I'm pretty sure that crept into his mind at times. But he refused to give up. It was something he loved, and he wasn't going to allow anyone to deprive him from the game he loved. 4 years later, as a freshman in college at the University of North Carolina, he hit the game-winning shot in the national championship game. Talk about redemption. Who knows if he would have had that same drive, that same determination, had he not failed to make the high school team. What I do know is that he turned that moment of failure in high school into one of the biggest success stories this world has ever seen. What if I tried that before? The key to learning is repetition. Practice, practice, practice. There's a famous or infamous, depending on how you want to look at it, interview with Allen Iverson, another basketball great. He used the word practice 22 times in a 2-minute dialogue. Now yes, in the interview he was complaining that the reporters kept asking him why he missed practice, but again, that shows how important practice is. Even if you're good at something, you've got to constantly be practicing what you're doing. Things change fast and often. Practice will keep you prepared for any and all changes. This is where you get to try new things, add some stuff, take some stuff out, or maybe just tweak a few things. The more you practice, the better you will be prepared to handle changes. Again, put yourself in uncomfortable situations. And don't take shortcuts. I remember growing up playing football, and the coaches at practice would always stress the importance of stretching out. I remember them always saying, give it your all, guys. You're only cheating yourself by taking shortcuts. There are no shortcuts to success. I remember one game, I was so excited to play that I half-assed my pregame warm-ups and stretches, and don't you know, I pulled a hamstring in the first quarter and had to miss the whole rest of the game. I learned that lesson at the tender age of 11. You just can't cheat the hustle. Session 3. How to deal with fatigue. There are many forms of fatigue, and if you let it, it can do a lot of damage to your body as a whole, so be extremely careful. What if your work, family life is draining? Guys, we all have other priorities that have to be taken care of. With how crazy and hectic life gets, we tend to neglect the most important priority of them all, ourselves. You are no good to anybody else if you're in a bad place, right? If you work an 8-hour shift, by law, you have to receive at least an hour worth of breaks. Usually 2 15-minute breaks and 1 30-minute lunch. There's an hour every day you can do something like meditate. I learned how to take power naps while I was in college, and let me tell you, they're great. The thing is, when your body is tired, it's going to shut down. But there are things you can do to give it a little spark, so to speak, such as meditating. Again, start small. Try it write for 10 minutes on your 15-minute break or 20 minutes on your lunch. We all have alarms on our phones. Set an alarm or a timer for about 10, 15 minutes and indulge. This is just like anything else. It's going to take practice. Yes, Iverson, practice. But once you discover that you can do it, it becomes so much easier. Just don't give up. As I just stated, power naps are awesome. It's a form of meditation, but just for short spurts. Thus the name, power nap. I wouldn't recommend taking power naps often as it could interrupt your regular sleeping patterns, but they are extremely effective on an occasional use. You can always try going to bed a little earlier. Now, depending on the hours you work, this can be challenging, but again, ask yourself, is this really important to me? And as I've said before, if something's important to you, you will find a way to get it done. Session 4, the importance of writing things down. This is something that I've learned recently. Well, it's been told to me for as long as I can remember. However, just recently have I started following this, and wouldn't you know it, things started taking off. I started recalling ideas easier. My focus became razor sharp. I started coming up with ideas that I never thought possible. You may be saying to yourself, what if I'm not good at writing? Again, you've got to start somewhere. Nobody's expecting you to become a Pulitzer Prize winner, unless that's, of course, what your dream is to do. So just start jotting things down when you think of them. But you have to believe in yourself. And the best way to gain that confidence is, that's right, practice and taking the uncomfortable actions. It may look sloppy at first, but just like anything else, most people don't just pick up something and are automatically good at it. It takes repetition, it takes practice, and sometimes it takes a lot of sacrifice. But hey, aren't you worth it? Just think. How many times have you had a great idea and didn't write it down and you forgot about it? My mother used to tell me all the time, if it's important to you, you will remember. That's not always the case. I mean, come on. We are all going through this thing called life. Sometimes things happen so fast that you just can't keep up. Writing things down helps you keep track of your thoughts. The good thing about it is, because you're just jotting things down, if people get nosy and start to snoop around, they won't have any idea what any of it means. But on the flip side, it's also a great way for you to organize your thoughts and put projects together at your own leisure. You can add or subtract things in your notes. You can even get specific journals for specific things you're working on and always know exactly where to go to find them. Myself, I've never really had good penmanship, so maybe that's a big reason why it took me so long to incorporate this great tool. Nonetheless, it's been a godsend since I've started, so I urge you, please write things down. Promise, you'll thank me later. What's the difference if I type them? The difference is the pen is mightier than the keyboard. Yes, the pen is way mightier than the keyboard. It's said to be known that writing things down enables a higher level of learning. And that makes sense. When you're writing something down, you're actually reviewing it multiple times. Think about it. If you have a thought, boom, it's in your head. As you begin to write, you're repeating in your head everything that you're writing down. Then you reread it in your head once you've finished. That's 3 separate times a single thought is repeated in your mental as you're writing it down. So yes, I would say that would enable a higher level of learning. Would you agree?